Hello, welcome to Capital Sensei. Today, we're going to break down one of the most provocative and powerful concepts in modern wealth creation, FU money. We'll be using the framework popularized by the entrepreneur Dan Lok to understand what this term really means. We'll explore the critical mindset shift required to even begin this journey, the difference between being rich and having true financial freedom, and the practical steps, like developing high-income skills, that can actually get you there. Whenever we can, we try to answer questions in the comments section. This journey is different for everyone, so feel free to share your own stories, your doubts, and your questions below. Creating a community where we can all learn from each other is one of the most valuable things we can do. So, let's get right into it. The term FU money sounds aggressive, doesn't it? It conjures up images of someone storming into their boss's office and quitting in a blaze of glory. And while that's a dramatic fantasy, it misses the true, deeper meaning. FU money isn't about being disrespectful or arrogant. It's about sovereignty. It's the amount of money you need in the bank, or more accurately, in income-producing assets that allows you to make decisions based purely on your own will, without being coerced by financial pressure. Think of it this way. Imagine your life is a ship. For most people, the winds and the currents are their job, their boss, their bills, and their debt. They have to steer their ship according to these external forces. They might want to sail to a beautiful tropical island, but the current of their mortgage payment is pulling them towards a rocky shore they have to navigate every single day. FU money is when you've built such a powerful engine on your ship that you can ignore the wind and the currents entirely. You can point your ship in any direction you choose and go there, simply because you want to. It's the power of choice. Now, this is fundamentally different from just being rich. We see rich people all the time who are still trapped. The doctor who makes $700,000 a year, but has a $1 million mortgage, 2 luxury car payments, and kids in expensive private schools. He's rich, but he's not free. If he stopped working, that entire house of cards would collapse in a matter of months. He has golden handcuffs. He has to keep running on the hamster wheel even if it's a very fancy gold-plated hamster wheel. FU money is when you can step off the wheel entirely, and it just keeps spinning without you. This is where Dan Lok's philosophy really comes into focus. Lok's story is one of a classic immigrant rags-to-riches tale, but with a modern twist. He emphasizes that the journey to this kind of freedom doesn't start with a savings plan or a budget. It starts in your head. It starts with a radical shift in your financial mindset. Most of us are raised with what he calls a poor or middle-class mentality. We're taught to save money, avoid debt at all costs, get a good, safe job, and clip coupons. There's nothing inherently wrong with that advice for survival, but it will never lead to FU money. This old way of thinking is rooted in scarcity. It sees money as a limited resource that you have to hoard and protect. The mindset required for building true wealth is one of abundance. It sees money not as something to be saved, but as a tool to be used and multiplied. It understands that money is a game of offense, not just defense. You can't just save your way to freedom. You have to earn your way there. And that requires a completely different set of skills and beliefs. Dan Lok uses a great analogy for this: the financial thermostat. Every person has an internal financial thermostat set to a certain temperature. If your thermostat is set to $50,000 a year, you'll find ways to earn roughly $50,000 a year. If you suddenly get a bonus and make $70,000, you'll subconsciously find ways to spend or lose that extra $20,000 to get back to your comfort zone. You might buy a new car, or take a lavish vacation. Conversely, if you get laid off and your income drops to $30,000, you'll work frantically to get it back up to $50,000. Your thermostat dictates your reality. The first step, then, is to consciously and deliberately turn up your financial thermostat. You have to start believing, truly believing, that you are capable and worthy of earning $200,000, $500,000, or even $1 million a year. This isn't just wishful thinking or manifesting. It's about shattering your own limiting beliefs about what's possible for you. Until you do this, you'll always self-sabotage your own success. You'll see opportunities, but you'll think, oh, that's not for people like me. Once you've started working on that internal thermostat, the next question is a practical one. How do you actually generate that kind of income? A standard 9-to-5 job, even a good one, usually won't cut it. There's a ceiling on your salary. You might get a 3% raise each year. That's not a rocket ship, that's a staircase. To build FU money, you need a rocket ship. And that rocket fuel, according to Locke, is a high-income skill. What is a high-income skill? It's a specific skill set that can reliably generate over $10,000 per month. Notice the wording. It's not a job title. It's a skill. A job is what you have. A skill is what you can do. You can lose a job, but no one can take your skill away from you. This skill becomes your personal money-making machine. Examples of these skills are things like copywriting, which is essentially salesmanship in print. It's the ability to write words that persuade people to buy something. Every business on the planet needs this. Another is high-ticket closing, which is the skill of closing sales for products or services that cost thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars. Think of selling high-end consulting packages or business coaching. Others include digital marketing, public speaking, or advanced software development. What do all these skills have in common? They are directly tied to revenue generation for a business. A company will happily pay a great copywriter $50,000 for a project if that copywriter's work brings in $500,000 in sales. You are not a cost center, like an administrative assistant might be viewed. You are a profit center. This gives you immense leverage. Your income is no longer tied to your time. It's tied to the results you can produce. This is a game changer. Of course, the immediate reaction for most people is, but I don't know how to do any of those things. And that's the point. Nobody is born a master copywriter or a world-class sales closer. These are skills that must be learned. This is where the abundance mindset comes back in. The person with a scarcity mindset says, I can't afford to take that $2,500 course. The person with an abundance mindset says, how can I afford not to take this course if it can triple my income within a year? Locke's philosophy is adamant on this point. The very first and most important investment you will ever make is in yourself. Before you buy a single stock, a piece of real estate, or a gram of gold, you invest in acquiring a high-income skill. You buy the books, you take the courses, you hire the mentors. You compress decades of trial and error into months by learning from people who have already achieved what you want to achieve. This is how you build your personal income-generating engine. To understand the journey, it's helpful to think of wealth in 3 distinct levels. The first level is survival. This is where most people live. You're paycheck to paycheck. You're constantly stressed about bills. A single unexpected expense, like a car repair, can send your entire financial life into a tailspin. You are on the hamster wheel and you are running for your life. There is no freedom here. There is only anxiety. The second level is security. This is the traditional goal of the middle class. You have a stable job, you're making decent money, and you've managed to build up an emergency fund. Maybe you have 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved up. This is a massive improvement from survival. You're not one missed paycheck away from disaster, but you're still not free. You still have to go to that job you might not love because your security depends on it. You have a cushion, but you're still in the system. The third and final level is FU money. This is the level of true financial sovereignty. This isn't just about having a pile of money. It's about having a portfolio of assets that generates enough passive income to cover your desired lifestyle forever. At this level, work becomes a choice. You can keep working because you love what you do, or you can stop entirely. The money machine you've built keeps running whether you show up or not. This is the ultimate endgame. So, how do we get from paying off credit cards to having this perpetual money machine? This is where income, savings, and investing come together in a powerful sequence. The high-income skill is what allows you to break free from the gravitational pull of the survival level. Trying to save your way to freedom on a $40,000 salary is like trying to reach the moon by climbing a ladder. It's just not going to happen. The math doesn't work. But if you develop a skill that allows you to earn, say, $20,000 a month, now you have some serious fuel. And here's the next critical step. And it's where most people who achieve high incomes fail. You must resist lifestyle inflation. When your income goes from $5,000 a month to $20,000 a month, the temptation is to immediately upgrade your life. You buy the bigger house, the fancier car, the designer clothes. Before you know it, your expenses have risen to $18,000 a month. You're earning more, but you're just as trapped. You've only upgraded your cage. The key is to increase your income dramatically, while keeping your lifestyle relatively stable, or only increasing it modestly. Imagine you're earning $20,000 a month, but you continue to live a lifestyle that only costs $5,000 a month. That gap, that $15,000 every single month, is your secret weapon. That is your investment capital. That is the money you will use to buy your freedom. This capital is then deployed to buy assets. And what's an asset? In this context, an asset is anything that puts money in your pocket. A job is not an asset. It takes money from your employer and puts it in your pocket. Your skills are your personal asset. But we're talking about external assets. A rental property that generates monthly cash flow after all expenses are paid is an asset. A portfolio of dividend-paying stocks that sends you a check every quarter is an asset. A business that runs without your daily involvement is an asset. Your primary residence, on the other hand, is generally not an asset in this model. It's a liability because it takes money out of your pocket every month for mortgages, taxes, and upkeep. Let's put some real numbers to this to make it clear. A common benchmark used in financial planning is the 4% rule. This is a guideline that suggests you can safely withdraw 4% of your invested portfolio's value each year without depleting the principal over the long term. So we can reverse engineer this to figure out our FU money number. First, you need to define your freedom lifestyle. How much would you need per year to live the life you truly want without any extravagance? Let's say that number is $100,000 a year. Using the 4% rule, you would take your desired annual income and divide it by 0.04. So $100,000 divided by 0.04 equals $2.5 million. That's your target. $2.5 million in income-producing assets would, on average, generate $100,000 a year for you to live on, theoretically forever. That's the machine. Now, that $2.5 million figure can seem impossibly large, but this is why the high income skill is the first step. If you're trying to save that from a normal salary, it would take multiple lifetimes. But if you're generating that $15,000 of investment capital every single month, that's $180,000 a year. If you invest that amount wisely and let it compound over time, that $2.5 million goal suddenly moves from being a fantasy to being a mathematical certainty. It's like filling a giant swimming pool. Trying to fill it with a leaky bucket is a frustrating, lifelong task. That's the save 10% of your paycheck model. Developing a high-income skill is like hooking up a fire hose to a hydrant. The pool is going to fill up exponentially faster. Your job is to get that fire hose, turn it on full blast, and point it directly at the pool, your investment portfolio, not at watering your lawn with a bunch of fancy new liabilities. This process requires immense discipline and a shift in your perception of time. It's about mastering delayed gratification. Our consumer culture trains us for instant gratification. You get a bonus, you immediately book a vacation. You see something you want, you put it on a credit card. The path to FU money is the exact opposite. It's about seeing a dollar today, not as a dollar, but as a seed. You can either eat the seed now, or you can plant it. If you plant it, it can grow into a tree that produces fruit for the rest of your life. The person building wealth is always planting seeds. When you earn $1,000, you don't ask, "What can I buy with this?" You ask, "How can I deploy this $1,000 so that it turns into $2,000? You start thinking like an investor, not a consumer. Every dollar becomes a soldier in your army, and your mission is to send them out to conquer more territory and bring back prisoners, which are more dollars. You keep building your army until it's so large and powerful that it can support you without you having to lead the charge anymore. Now, let's talk about risk, because many people hear this and think it sounds incredibly risky. Quitting a safe job to learn a new skill and build a business from scratch? That's terrifying for most people. But Dan Lok and other proponents of this philosophy would turn that question around. What's the real risk? Is the real risk betting on yourself, your skills, and your ability to create value? Or is the real risk outsourcing your entire financial security to a single employer in a single industry who could lay you off tomorrow with a 2-week severance package? What seems safe? The steady paycheck, the benefits, the pension plan is actually incredibly fragile in the modern economy. You have a single point of failure. If that one job disappears, your entire income stream vanishes. By developing a high-income skill, you are diversifying your own abilities. A master copywriter doesn't work for one company. They can work for hundreds of clients across dozens of industries. If one client leaves, it's a minor setback, not a catastrophe. You are building a far more resilient financial foundation, even though it feels riskier at the start. Another key concept here is scalability. A salaried job is not very scalable. You trade your time for money. Since you have a limited amount of time, there's a hard cap on your income. You can't just decide to work 200 hours in a day to make more money. A high-income skill, especially when you start to leverage it, is highly scalable. A copywriter can write one sales page that sells a product to 10 million people. They did the work once, but they get paid based on the massive result. As you master your skill, you can also scale by building a team. You transition from being a technician, the person doing the work, to being an entrepreneur, the person who builds the system that does the work. You hire other copywriters or salespeople. Now, you're not just earning from your own efforts, you're earning a percentage from the efforts of your entire team. This is how you can go from making $20,000 a month to making $100,000 a month. You are leveraging other people's time. So let's bring it back to that core idea. FU money. What does it actually feel like? What does it unlock in your life? It's the freedom to say no. It's the power to walk away from a project that compromises your values. It's the ability to refuse to work with a client who is abusive or disrespectful. It's being able to take 6 months off to care for a sick family member without worrying about how the bills will get paid. It's the freedom to move to a new city or country on a whim. It's about removing money as the primary decision-making factor in your life. Most people make their life choices based on a financial spreadsheet. Can I afford to quit this job? No. Can I afford to take this trip? No. Can I afford to pursue my passion for painting? No. FU money erases that side of the equation. The question is no longer, can I afford it? But do I want to do it? This is a level of freedom that very few people ever experience. And as I mentioned at the beginning, the FU isn't an external attitude. It's an internal state. It's a quiet, unshakable confidence that you are the author of your own life story. You don't have to be loud or flashy. In fact, many people who have achieved this level of wealth live very modest lives. They fly under the radar. They don't need the external validation of a Lamborghini because they have the internal security of true freedom. The car is a noisy substitute for the quiet power they actually possess. The path, then, is simple to understand, but it is not easy to execute. It requires a complete rewiring of your brain and your habits. First, you must change your mindset. You have to raise your financial thermostat and shift from a scarcity-based view of the world to an abundance-based one. See money as a tool for offense, not just a resource for defense. Second, you must invest in yourself to develop a scalable, high-income skill. This is your engine. Focus on skills that are directly tied to a company's bottom line, as this gives you maximum leverage. This stage requires obsessive focus and a willingness to delay other goals. Third, once you've started generating a high income, you must create a massive gap between what you earn and what you spend. This is your investment capital, the fuel for your freedom machine. This requires discipline and the mastery of delayed gratification. Fourth, you systematically convert that active, high income into passive asset income. You buy assets that put money in your pocket month after month. You build your army of dollar soldiers. You continue this process until the passive income from your assets is greater than your annual living expenses. When you cross that line, you have won the game. You have achieved FU money. It is a long road, but it is a road with a very clear and very worthwhile destination.